Yes, so good afternoon, everybody. This is Krishnakumar Iyer, but feel free to call me KK. Um, uh, Looks like even the weather is supporting us. We are having a little bit of rain, at least in this parts of Pune. I live near the NIBM area, and we just had a little bit of rain. The weather looks very pleasant and feels very pleasant. I hope it's the same at your end. And really excited to be here as part of the webinar. And I noticed there are 96 participants, which is really nice to see that. And looks like this is a subject of interest to a whole lot of people. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cover this entire webinar in broadly 3 parts. First part is I'm going to do a bit of a walkthrough of how you look at reading RFPs, that is a request for proposals, to analyzing it and then putting together a proposal as part of your response. That will be part 1. I will then have a very short presentation on what are some of the key elements that needs to go into putting together the world-class proposals as part of your organization. And finally, we will open it up for a question and answer session. What I would suggest is that you're all put on mute. What I would suggest is that as we go through the entire presentation and walkthrough, if any questions occur to you, feel free to drop them in the chat box. And that way, what we can do is we can take up these questions at the end, and we will try our best to address all questions. But please do appreciate that we are operating with limited time, which is about an hour. All right. I noticed that voice seems a bit low. Just be a little patient. What we will do is once I switch into the presentation side, I'll switch off my video so that there is no challenge with bandwidth, and the bandwidth becomes a little more easier with only audio. So hopefully that will make things a little better. Excellent. So let's get started. I believe Roshni has already shared with you the RFP that I had sent, that we had sent via email. I'll just use the share screen. Just give me a second. Okay, so you're able to see my screen, hopefully. And this was an RFP, sample RFP, which I think would have been circulated for all of you. And it's a very short RFP, just about 4 or 5 pages. Not meant to be like the real RFP, but it will give you a flavor of typically the kind of RFPs you and your organizations face. But more importantly, I'm going to talk about the concepts here so that you appreciate that independent of what kind of RFP you get, you can still put together a world-class proposal as a response to that RFP. That's the purpose of the session. And hopefully that will be a very useful set of takeaways that you can take back at the end of the session and try and apply it into the way you put together proposals. So what we have here is an RFP. This is an RFP, just to give you a quick gist, where the company, a fictitious company called Salesco, wants to transform its sales organization from regional sales to a national sales organization, because now they want to pursue larger accounts, and therefore they require the entire team to come together, coordinate with each other much better, etc., etc. And the VP of Salesco wants the team to come together, and he has worked towards putting together a broad, high-level requirement in terms of trekking, so that the team can work together during the trek, bond well together during the trek, and hopefully, teams from, say, Western India would still be able to work very well with, say, Eastern India, for example. Hopefully, if you have gone through the RFP, you know what I'm talking about. So this is a broad gist as far as the RFP is concerned. So imagine for a moment when your company receives an RFP like this, what usually happens is that typically who needs to get involved in the RFP obviously need to read through the RFP. But this is where the challenge is. Because RFPs don't follow a very structured method, remember it's being issued by the client, the challenge for teams is how do you make sense of this RFP and what do you do with this RFP after you have kind of understood the RFP, and how does the downstream steps work going forward. So one of the methods that we have come up with is a complete RFP analysis and win strategy development method. And that's what I'm going to walk you through today for you to get a sense of how you can deal with RFPs like this. So the first step that we try to do when we go through the RFP is identify a set of issues as far as this particular RFP is concerned. What is an issue? An issue is anything that is of interest as far as the RFP is concerned. So if you notice, as you're seeing the screen, all text marked in light blue is basically of interest to us. Now, when I say of interest, all we are saying is that, hey, this seems interesting. What we are going to do with it is not something we are worrying about at this point in time. The point here is to try and develop an understanding of the client as best as we possibly can using this method. And at this point in time, you really want to keep the entire process very, very simple. So you highlight all the things that you think are of interest. And that's what you will see here in the RFP, right? So the ones marked in light blue are the ones which are of interest, for example, right? So for example, if you look at this one, the purpose of this RFP, Salesco has decided on a new sales strategy to pursue large accounts. Is that of interest? Yes. It has a pan-India presence. Interest. Require the previously independent sales team to have to work together. Very interesting, because we do recognize they're at the moment organized very regionally, and so on and so forth. And as you can notice, that's the way we have identified the issues. Now I'll just quickly scroll through to show how you can identify these issues as far as the RFP is concerned. Again, going back, what exactly is an issue? Issues of interest. Is it a requirement? Yes. Is it a problem statement? Yes. Is it some kind of objectives that the client is trying to achieve? Yes. Is it a set of challenges that the client is facing currently? Yes. Is there some background information that the client is sharing as part of the RFP? Yes, that is also an issue. So all of these really are issues. So you don't have to worry too much about having a very watertight definition of what an issue is. Just focus on what that sentence is saying, and is that a phrase that is of interest to you, in which case you want to record it as an issue. And that's exactly what I've done as part of this exercise. So once again, read through the RFP, identify issues of interest, highlight them so that you know that's something which you need to pick up as part of the second stage, right? Normally we print it out and highlight it with a highlighter or a pen or something like that. Of course, in today's world, people usually don't print out RFPs. I strongly encourage you to print your RFP so that you can go through this in a much more easier manner than trying to read it on a laptop. Reading on a piece of paper is much easier than a laptop. Some may or may not agree with this line of thinking, but that's certainly my experience. So once you have done this exercise of identifying the issues, and as you can see, I'm just kind of quickly scrolling through the number of regional heads have shared their concerns or issues. So for example, one of the regional head West has indicated that the new sales strategy is not very clear to us, or we don't know how it is going to work, right? Now, you might be a trekking company and say, this is not our concern. And I'll come to that as to how you should look at these issues and whether you're able to address them as part of your proposal solution or not. It's a secondary matter, but you should still record this as an issue. Okay, and I'll hopefully convince you why recording such issues will make a lot of sense. So you can see number of issues identified as part of the RFP. So I'm just quickly walking through. Once you have done that, the next step that you do is I'm going to switch to a different document, and just give me a second. Yep. Once you have done this, hopefully now you're able to see this spreadsheet on your screen. Don't worry if it looks a little complex. I'll walk you through. It's pretty straightforward. Once you have identified these issues, you just want to list them down, as in a piece of paper, or put it in an Excel, whatever makes sense to you. Now, the next step that we do is group these issues in a logical form. Okay, and this technique is called a technique called MECE, called MECE, or mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. This is quite a popular technique with McKinsey, one of probably the largest and most reputed consulting firm, and they use this to analyze and understand their clients. And we are kind of adopted this for us to help understand proposals. So the idea here is that group the issues as you have listed them down into groups like this. I'll just increase the zoom so that you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. So for example, if you look at these issues, that is from cells E29 to E32, you will notice each one of this issue comes from the RFP, right? So right from to see things for the long term and set into motion action today, the change in sales strategy is a critical shift for sales scope, expected to pay dividends over the next few quarters. Teamwork is a critical ingredient for the success of the new sales strategy, are all issues listed in the RFP. And what we have done is we have grouped them under what we call as VP sales division. Now, this grouping is something you can do it the way you like it. There are no specific rules or formula by which you want to do it. Group it as per your convenience, but come up with a nice group name which kind of describes all the issues below it. And you'll always find that that's easy, that will make easy in terms of grouping the whole thing. And once you have done this for all the issues, I'm just reducing the zoom. Okay. What you see is this entire piece looks like a horizontal tree with a root on the left and the branches going towards the right. And that's the way you want to build your tree, right? Okay. Now what? Now the next step that you want to do here is you have analyzed the RFP, you have identified the issues, grouped them into a tree. The next step you want to do is you want to do a walkthrough with your sales person who is in charge of the account. And why do you want to do that? 2-3 reasons. Firstly, what happens is that sales who manages the relationship as far as a client is concerned always has some intelligence gathered with the client over a period of time. And what you want to do is try and see if you can capture any additional issues which are missing out of the RFP. Remember, while the client states a certain things in RFP, there are also unstated expectations. There are always unstated concerns, for example. And hopefully your salesperson, if he or she has established a good relationship with the client, knows about them. So here is one step by which you can capture it and also treat it like an issue. And that goes into this issue tree as well. Why is this important? Because usually what happens is that sales carries this intelligence and on many occasions do not have the habit of documenting it. And usually it comes much later in the cycle, in which case it is a little late for you to deal with, or else it just gets completely missed out. By going through this review, it helps you unearth those and record them as issues, number one. Number two, it is also being addressed in a very, very structured manner, because what happens is that in the past, and this was a struggle that I used to go through, is sales just keeps throwing a whole lot of issues at you and you don't know how to deal with it. But here is a very well-defined structure which will allow you to add more issues into the issues tree. That's point number one, very important. Point number two, not all issues are same. Some issues are far more important than the others. And while you can try and make sense out of that through the RFP, remember the RFP is a very silent document, number one. Number two, RFP is a very flat unidimensional document, okay? And then trying to figure out what are the important issues. You're going to be using your own sense of judgment, and sometimes you might even misinterpret it. What you want to do here is that during your walkthrough with sales, is to get them to tell you which are the issues which are of importance. And that's what you see column number G. Okay. And the ones which are very important, you want to give it a weightage of 5. So in this particular case, teamwork is a critical ingredient for the success of the new sales strategy. Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, you yourself can figure this out. But now when sales confirms it, you can be absolutely sure that that weightage is true and credible. Okay. So you want to put a weightage of 5 against this, and that's what you're seeing in cell number G32. Hopefully, you can see. I'll just increase the zoom a little bit, and that should just 1 second. I'll just scroll this a bit. Sorry, there are multiple small screens going around. Yeah, hopefully that should get you to see the screen very well. So quickly summarizing, what have we done so far? We got the RFP. We read through the RFP. We identified those issues. What did we do with those issues? We highlighted them on the RFP through highlighters, pen, pencil, whatever. What did we do next? We took that list of issues and then grouped them together in the most logical fashion that we could, as you can see in this particular case, and recorded that entire set of issues as part of an issues tree. What did we do next? We walked through with sales on that issues tree and identified with sales which are the ones which are missing, and most importantly, which are the ones which carry a much higher weightage. So what you have done here is, against each one of those issues, you have scored 5, 3, 1, for example, and you want to keep the weightage as 5, 3, and 1. And there's very simple logic so that you keep a bit of a difference between the various issues and not score them as, oh, is it 5, is it 4, is it 2, is it 3? Just keep a little gap. 3 types of issues: 5, 3, 1. 5 is most important, 3 is medium importance, and 1 is important, period. And you want to keep this whole exercise very simple. Great. So far, so good. Hopefully, this makes sense to all of you. Now that you have done this, what do you do next? So we come to the next stage, which is, sorry, too many screens going back and forth. I'm just trying to, yeah. Once you have done this, you want to look at the capabilities of your organization. What exactly are capabilities? Capabilities are what you as an organization are good at. If you're a services organization, then you're good at a particular thing. You know, maybe if you're an IT company, for example, you're into IT services, then you're good at maybe a certain type of projects, for example, application development, or it could be web development, or it could be mobile app development. You know, so you represent a certain set of capabilities. If you're a product company, then your product features represent a certain set of capabilities as far as your organization is concerned. Where can you get these capabilities? Usually these capabilities are most likely talked about on your website, talked about in your brochures and all of those. And it requires a little bit of thinking and brainstorming with a few people to say, hey, what are our 5 to 7 capabilities that we always want to talk about to our clients? And those usually become your columns right here on the top, if you notice. Okay. So in this particular case, we have used this fictitious training company, this trekking company, to list down their capabilities. So their capabilities are advanced training for trekkers, guides and support staff are certified, partnership with the local for emergency evacuation, etc. They take a very eco-friendly approach towards trekking. They do a lot of customization. They do a lot of offbeat treks. These represent this particular trekking company's capabilities. Okay. So if you were a trekking company, you would also do something like this. Okay. Just to illustrate this point. What's next? Once you have identified your capabilities, you want to see how your capabilities help you address the issues on hand. Okay. Remember, one thing is that your capabilities mean nothing till it translates into how you resolve it as far as a client is concerned, and how it helps resolve a particular issue for the client and deliver benefits to the client. Only when the marriage of capability to the issue happens, that's when you are putting together something of value to the client. Okay, and this is exactly what we do through this exercise. I'll just give you an example. Okay. Right, so remember this particular issue, E32, teamwork is a critical ingredient for the success of the new sales strategy. Now, you could say, hey, I am a trekking company. I'm not into all this team building and all of those. I don't have a capability for team building and all of those. But, you know, everything related to trekking, I can certainly provide this as a service to the client. Okay, that's great. But remember one thing, that if you are able to provide all trekking services to your client, every one of your competition who are equally good trekking companies and some even better can do the same thing for the client, right? Assuming for a moment they have also received this RFP. So how do you differentiate yourself between your organization and their organization? This is where making efforts towards understanding the client comes into play. So when you look at this issue saying teamwork is a critical ingredient for the success of the new sales strategy, we may say, you know what, my organization does not have the capability. But let me think about it. Can I say, for example, join hands with, say, a sales consultant? And can I have a sales consultant who will work with my organization, my trekking organization, come with us as part of the trek and provide necessary sales coaching, sales training as part of the trek? Now you notice this is a solution innovation that you're able to bring in. Why are you able to bring it in? Because you have now developed a deep understanding as far as the client is concerned. And you're taking an approach which is outside in. You come from the world where you understand the client's issues, then you try to map it to your capabilities, and then say, hey, where all am I falling short? And let me try and see if I can do something to address some of those issues. Now is where this innovation comes in. Can every one of your competitor trekking companies do? Probably not. Because they'll say, hey, all we know is only trekking. We don't know anything about sales coaching, sales training, etc., etc. And therefore, we will focus on that only and nothing else. But let's say for a moment, you are able to bring in that partnership with a sales consultant and talk about it as part of your proposal. Put yourself for a moment in the VP sales course shoes. And when he looks at your proposal, he says, interesting. Looks like these guys have understood the issues that I have talked about as far as the RFP is concerned. First, nail on the head, number one. Number two, even though they are a trekking company and this is not part of their core competency, they have now been able to bring together a sales consultant who's going to work with them to help train and coach my sales team across different parts of the country as part of the trekking tour and help build better teamwork across this entire sales team. Okay, and this is where the VP sales coach sees you as a differentiated organization compared to every other trekking company. And now he will start inviting you for more discussions, more conversation. One of the biggest arguments that people make is, you know what, it's always the lowest cost proposal that wins. Okay, in my experience, that is not true at all. It's not the lowest cost proposal that wins. It's the highest value delivered to the client at the least cost that wins. Okay, and compared to a trekking company which offers only a solution, a regular trekking solution, okay, we'll take you from point A to point B, we'll organize the tents, camps, we will organize food for you, we'll organize safety, we'll organize trekking equipment, etc., and just stop as that, is not going to look any different from any other trekking company. But you as a trekking company, combined with a solution which involves a sales consultant who's going to do sales coaching, sales training as part of your service, you will find that now you are having a differentiated position compared to any trekking company. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Remember, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box and we will keep addressing them. Okay, so what we do here is, I'll just reduce this zoom a little bit. Yeah, so that same particular issue, what we have done here is that if I look at the column called customization, the fact that we are able to customize our treks very well, and here customization means bringing in the sales consultant who's going to work with us. I'm able to score 5 on this particular issue because I know I have a very good solution that I can offer to them, right? So this way I will score a 5. But for example, if I take a partnership with a local emergency service provider, I can only score a 1 because that's particularly does not address this issue as far as the teamwork is concerned, right? So there on that particular capability to issue sell, I will score a 1, but on customization to customization capability to the issue on hand, I'm able to score a 5. And this is how you go through a complete scoring exercise. And that's where you'll notice that in this particular case, you have a weighted score of 25. If you look at column cell Q32, right? And you do this entire scoring through the entire set of issues to your capabilities. And when you do that and add those weighted scores, that's where you will see that the totals across these columns, okay, you'll find that some capabilities have a much higher score than compared to the other capabilities. And what does this mean? That means in this particular case, customization, offbeat treks, and cruiser treks are the top 3 capabilities that you want to talk about in this particular proposal. Let's catch our breath for a moment, right? Quickly, let me summarize again. Identified issues, gave weightage to those. That's what we did. Organized them in a tree and listed them on the left of the spreadsheet. On the columns, what did we do? We identified the set of capabilities that we as an organization represent. You know, if anybody were to ask you, who are you? Tell me about your organization. These are probably the 6 or 7 capabilities that we will always talk about, right? So we listed them those. What do you do next? You take each capability and against each issue, you try to score from 1 to 5. What does 5 represent? 5 represents that I have something that I can offer to the client. It could be a solution, it could be some kind of narrative, it could even be past experience, whatever be the case, I can offer something of value to the client, in which case I will put a score of 5. In case I have nothing that I can offer to the client for this particular issue, then I will score a 1. And any score in between 1 to 5 is what I can do, right? So this is how you do the scoring. Remember one thing, that 1, in the world, there is nothing called a perfect trekking company, number 1. Number 2, every time you're able to uniquely offer value to the client for that particular opportunity, you will find that irrespective of price, you always end up in a significantly better position to work with a client. Yes, price plays an important aspect of the whole thing, but remember, it's never price in isolation. I mean, go back to some real life example. You know, we all buy shirts from the market, you know, and the price of shirts ranges literally from 100 rupees and it can go right up to 5,000 rupees. That's the range of pricing that you get as far as buying a shirt is concerned, you know. So let's say I buy a shirt worth, say, for example, 1,000 rupees, right? I could have easily bought a shirt worth 100 rupees, but yet I went and bought a 1,000 rupee shirt. Why? Maybe I like the brand. Maybe it's Arrow or Van Heusen or one of those famous brands. Or the shirt is made out of the best cotton, you know, in the country. Maybe the shirt has a very stiff collar, which makes me look good, and I like that, right? So I'm willing to pay that price of 1,000 rupees because that's a value that I see. But the same thing, if I was offered a 5,000 rupee shirt because it is, say, for example, stitched in the UK, you know, at Savile Row, famous for its suits and all of those, maybe I don't want to pay that kind of a price. I don't see the value for it. I'm willing to go for a 1,000 rupee shirt. But on the other hand, I'm not interested in buying that 100 rupee shirt, which is available on Fashion Street or, you know, one of those major open market places. I'm not saying they're bad. They're obviously useful for some. But for me, it doesn't appeal. I don't see value in buying that shirt because I want to have a shirt which I can wear it for my client meetings and I want to look very nice when it comes to that. Or maybe I want to go for a job interview, whatever be the case. And that's a value that I'm seeking for. So remember one thing, price is never decided in isolation. Price is always decided in the context of the value that gets delivered. And what the way you thought about in terms of buying the shirt, the same principles are applied by clients as well, because remember, they're also human beings like you and me, and that's what it is. So coming back to our exercise, what we have done here is identified a unique set of differentiators for this particular RFP, and now we can talk about this as part of our proposal exercise. Okay. Remember, questions, please drop them in the chat box and I'll try and address them as soon as I finish my presentation part. Okay, let me switch screens. Okay, nice to see quite a few questions have been covered. We'll certainly try and address them. Okay, all right, I will share screen and I'll walk you through the proposal. Okay. Okay, once we have gone through this exercise of identifying our differentiators, what you now want to do is obviously go into the solutioning part of it. I'm not talking about the solutioning part of it here because that will involve working with specialists and technical engineers, solutioning engineers, all service delivery specialists and all of those. There's a complete framework available to talk about that. And unfortunately, given limited time, we can't really talk about that. Having gone
excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Actually, one
hello.
question
Sir, I'll just interrupt you.
Yes.
Sorry, Roshni.
Hello. Sir, I'll just interrupt you. There is a question that they want to know what is raw score and weighted score.
Yes, I saw that. Okay. Do you want me to address it right away? Let me do that then.
Yeah, there are some questions.
Okay, all right, I'll do that. Okay, so let's just go back to the basics. Cell E32, this is the issue that we identified from the RFP, and we have recorded faithfully into this issue chart. What is weightage, which is G32? This weightage is how important it is from the client standpoint. Is it very important? In which case we give a score of 5. If it is medium importance, we give a score of 3. If it is least important, we give a scoring of 1. In this case, this is very important, so therefore we have given it a score of 5, and that's why I've color coded it differently and in blue. So hopefully that stands out. Okay. What do we do next is when we try to map this to our capability. Okay. Remember, this is teamwork that the VP of Sales is concerned about. And the solution that we are offering to the client is to say that, you know what, we will partner with a very good sales consultant, and the sales consultant will be with us during our trek. The sales consultant will train and coach your people on how to work very well together as a team and why it is important to work together as a team. That's a solution that we are offering. And this comes as part of our capability to customize our treks, and that's exactly what we are trying to represent here. Now, given the fact that we are tying up with a sales consultant and we are offering them a good solution to help address that issue of teamwork, we are scoring a raw score of 5. Okay, so this 5 represents the fact that you have a very good ability to help resolve this issue. Okay, and this 5 multiplied by that weightage of 5 gives you a weightage score of 25. This raw score of 5, can it be, what other scores can it be possible? It can be anywhere from 1 to 5. What does 1 represent? Hey, we don't have anything to offer as far as this particular issue and this particular capability is concerned. So for example, if you look at the partnership with local emergency, we are scoring a raw score of 1 against that issue. Sorry, every time I have to keep moving this screen. So yes. So against that issue of teamwork being critical for the client, partnership with local emergency providers doesn't offer anything unique as far as this issue is concerned. And therefore we are scoring a 1. As compared to that, the fact that we are able to offer a sales consultant who will work with the client during the entire trek, we are putting a raw score of 5. So the multiplication of raw score to the weightage is what gives you the weighted score. And the sum of all weighted scores right at the bottom helps you arrive at your differentiators. Okay. Hopefully I've addressed this question, and if not, we can potentially even take it offline if required. All right. Okay. So let me go back to my other session. Give me a second. Right. I'm going to share screen, and okay. Yeah. So coming back, once we are now into the proposal development stage, what you want to do is put together the proposal which not only addresses the issue, but also talks about how you're going to deliver this entire engagement as far as this particular client is concerned. So I'm going to quickly walk you through how the end proposal looks like, if you adopt the entire methodology of world-class proposals. So what we have adopted here is right from the way you design your cover page. So in this case, if you see the cover page talks about 3 key benefits that the client is going to get out of working with us. Team learns to collaborate for peak performance. Remember, that was a very important issue. So we are talking about how teams will learn to collaborate better once they go through a trekking exercise with us. Well-being with improved fitness we are going to deliver, and more than 50% reduction in training costs, right? So in this particular case, these are the top 3 things that we want to talk about as far as this opportunity is concerned, and we actually put it on the cover page. Why is this important? Imagine a scenario where, let's say, 5 proposals are sitting on a table, and the client stakeholder comes in, walks into the room. Which proposal is he going to pick up to look at first? He's going to pick the one which has got the best cover page. So there itself, you want to make your mark and put together a very customized, well-designed cover page. Who can help you do this? The good news there is that there are plenty of graphics and visual design capabilities available now in the market at extremely good prices today. You can use very creative graphics design professionals to help you create this customized cover page. Okay, by all means, you can use that tab. Okay, great. Once we have done that, what we do is, of course, this is your table of contents. We go into putting together the proposal. And of course, the most important thing, of course, just to clarify, the company in this case, the fictitious company which is responding to this particular RFP is called Mojo Adventures. Okay, some cooked up name. Don't worry too much about it. So Mojo Adventures in this case is the vendor. So you want to make sure that you have an executive summary which is there as part of your proposal and talks about at a high level what is it that you're offering to the client. And remember, we talked about teamwork and how that's important as far as this RFP is concerned is something that we reflected back into the executive summary. Why do you need to do that? You want to do that because this way you are demonstrating to the client that 1, I understand your world, and 2, my solution takes care of these issues as far as you are concerned. Very useful to do things like this. On the left, for example, you will notice that there is a client testimonial. Always bring in client testimonials into the relevant sections of your proposal and not keep it hanging somewhere else. Why is this important? This adds a lot of credibility to your claim, right? And if you read through the entire testimonial, it indeed does that. Okay, very important to do that, because instead of you claiming you're good, etc., if there is another client who gives you a testimonial saying, hey, these guys are good, it always has a much better resonance as far as your client is concerned. Okay, and then of course you talk about your solution, step 1, step 2, step 3. That's your solution description, not going into details of it. And what you can also do here is, as you're addressing the issues from the RFP, you can also put them out here. Sorry. Yeah, you can also include them here on the left as what are called as callouts. How does it help? When you reflect that issue that you have identified from the RFP into your proposal, it does a couple of things. Remember, the client only understands his RFP. He doesn't understand your proposal. Not yet, till he has gone through it. every time the client goes through your proposal, he's constantly looking at saying, hey, is my issue getting addressed as part of the proposal? Okay. Remember also one thing, that when you get into larger proposals and all of those, the RFPs are put together by multiple stakeholders within the client organization. And not all stakeholders might have a complete view of the RFP. They might have just written one section within the RFP. So when they look at your proposal, they are trying to figure out, have you addressed the issues of that subsection? And if you don't clearly establish that through callouts like this, chances are high that he may go back after reading your proposal saying, I'm not sure my issues have got addressed. And all it will do is he will raise more questions with you, or may not even raise those questions, or worse still, if your competition has done a good job of doing that, guess what? They'll swing straight away towards your competition. So always a very good practice to make sure that issues that you're addressing in your particular narrative as part of your proposal, you can put it together as a call out on the left. Very, very useful practice, very, very beneficial to clients. We have got some very good feedback from our clients to say, hey, your proposal is standout. You know, it stands out so uniquely from the competitors out there. And we have always found that very, very heartening. So once you do that, you start putting together the proposal, you know, in the way you want to do it, making sure all the issues are addressed. Very important to have graphics as part of your proposal. We talked about the cover page. One very good practice that you should have is every page must contain some graphic, at least one graphic, and I would say a maximum of 3 graphics. Reason being, it makes that entire proposal so much more easier to read. Remember one thing, independent of the size, complexity of the RFP, RFPs are universally boring. Okay, I'm willing to take a bet with anybody in this audience today who has ever found an RFP which was exciting to read. No RFPs are exciting to read. Let us be honest and brutally frank with ourselves. You don't have to tell this to your clients, obviously, but this is our own truth. Having said that, what have we been doing in the past? We submit proposals which are equally boring to read. We take revenge on our clients. Okay, we need to change that. Okay, no longer boring proposals should be submitted. You have to make your proposals exciting to look, exciting to read, and half the battle is won there. So making sure graphics and visual design as part of your proposal is something you must incorporate without fail. Okay, so I'm just kind of quickly walking through this whole proposal, just for you to give you a sense of what I'm talking about. So we talked about the sales partnership. So here we are talking about the training using the spin selling, for example, and for example, you know, who's going to be doing the sales training, or what method we are using to do the sales training. We're talking about that, and the sales consultant will be working with us, and all of those are things that we are talking about as part of this proposal. All right. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what I'm talking about. My idea here is to just give you a sense of how the proposal looks like in this case, and how we have taken the issue right from the RFP, go through the analysis, develop a winning strategy, and then it goes into the proposal as such. So that's what I've attempted to do. So just quickly scrolling through the proposal so that you can kind of get a good idea of the look and feel of, you know, how this proposal looks like. All right. Okay, great. Okay, so we have finished the first part of our webinar. I'm going to go into the second part here. I'll just quickly stop the presentation, and I'll go switch over to my PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Okay, so hopefully you're able to see my presentation. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on lecturing and monologues and all of those. Hopefully I've been able to demonstrate, you know, what goes into putting together world-class proposals. So clearly you need lot more than just putting together a world-class proposal in terms of the way you're structured in your organization and how do you respond to the different kind of opportunities that come across to your organization. First, just to make sure that we get the definition right of what a proposal is, and that's what you're seeing right now on screen, is a formal response to a requirement that offers a unique solution, mind you, unique solution, at a price, scope, timelines, and how it will be delivered. The key word here is unique solution. Did we do that in this particular case? Yes, absolutely, we do that through that example that I talked to you about, how we are bringing in a sales consultant who will work with us to help deliver better teamwork as far as the client is concerned. Okay, this is where a proposal is very different from quotation. The quotations don't offer unique solutions. Quotations usually offer some products, some services at a given price, at a given timelines, and with a set of terms and conditions. It doesn't offer a unique solution. That's a big difference between proposals and quotations. What I'm talking about, the entire webinar, one question that usually comes at, yeah, but we don't get RFPs. You know, we usually put our proposals together in a proactive manner. Everything that we talked about today equally applies to proactive proposals as well. All you need to do is, instead of an RFP, if you can establish a protocol of capturing all the issues as far as the client is concerned, everything else falls into place. So you can easily or you can easily follow the same process as far as proactive proposals are also concerned. Some industry studies I thought I'll just share with you regarding pre-sales and proposal functions and all of those. And here is a report in Harvard Business Review conducted by a bunch of McKinsey consultants who talk about that when you have very strong pre-sales capabilities supporting a sales organization, the win rates can go up to 40 to 50%. And with the existing clients, it can even go up to 80 to 90%. So clearly, in a complex B2B world where the issues that the client is solving by nature are complex, and the solutions therefore offered are equally complex, you want to have very strong pre-sales capabilities to work with the sales organization to convert them into wins for your organization. The second point is all about shaping conversations. I'm sure you're able to read through that quote. By all means, do that. What is important here is that when you're working with clients, whether RFP or proactive proposals, you want to make sure that you're shaping the conversations as far as the client is concerned. When I'm saying shaping, meaning you are influencing him, you are putting him in a direction which obviously favors your services and your capabilities, and yet you are able to demonstrate constantly to the client that you're delivering value to him. And if you're able to do that, the chances of you winning the deal is significantly better than otherwise. And more importantly, it will also make you stand out as far as other trekking companies are concerned, therefore your competition. Very quickly, always you need to be concerned about, when you are having a function which is putting together proposals, is concerned about win ratios. What are win ratios? Number of proposals won to number of proposals submitted. I submitted 10 proposals, I won 3. Win ratio is 30%. What is capture ratios? It's the same, but now in value. So I submitted 10 proposals worth 100 rupees and I won 60 of them. I won the value of the proposals that I won was worth 60 rupees. So your win ratio is, your capture ratio is 60%. So win ratio is 30%, which is number of proposals won against number of proposals submitted. Capture ratio is number of value of proposals submitted, 100 rupees, value of proposals won, 60 rupees, capture ratio is 60%. So win ratios and capture ratios can be different, and they have meanings that you can derive out of it. We are not going to spend time too much here on that. There's a lot of meaning that you can derive out of these two ratios and how to strategize. Cost per bid, you always want to be efficient, right? Remember, the pre-sales function is a fixed cost function. So your management will constantly be asking questions about, hey, I can't afford a higher budget, but can you help us win more? That's usually the constant question your management will be asking about. So keeping track of that, on how much you are spending on every proposal, is always very, very useful for your own tracking, for your budget preparation, etc., etc. So finally, when it comes to putting together winning proposals, and to a certain extent, I kind of covered it through the example, is there are always two dimensions to it. One is creating the right content, which is what you see right here on the top left, and presenting it effectively. Remember one thing, creating the right content is always a little more complex than presenting it. So creating the right content will involve the right people, processes, right boilerplate content, and going through a proper process like the way we talked about, analyzing RFP, identifying issues, mapping it to your capabilities, arriving at your differentiators, going through a structured, well-defined process to arrive at the right content. And you have a proposal which is very specific as far as a client is concerned, and marrying it with some excellent graphics and visual design. Okay, the right part is much more easier to solve today, and I think I would encourage every one of you to look at this very, very seriously in case you're not doing that. Okay. Creating winning proposals, this is a slightly different view. All proposals carry two types of content. One content which is unique, and the other content that is boilerplate content. What is unique content? Unique content is what you always craft uniquely every time, all the time, for every proposal. And you want to do that because you always want to come from the client context, and that's something which you always want to follow in a very, very well-defined discipline. So your unique content should address the questions of what are we delivering, when are we delivering, where, who, how, what's the risk, how are we going to manage this engagement, so therefore governance, and of course pricing without fail. So this has always got to be done uniquely. What is boilerplate content? Boilerplate content could be, your standard way by which you, for example, talk about safety procedures. In this case of trekking, you want to talk about the safety procedures that you follow, that usually very standard, and that always has to be part of your boilerplate content. Your client testimonials are all part of the boilerplate content. Remember, I showed you the client example of a client testimonial. These are all boilerplate content, and you want to use them in your proposal as required, and that's where it brings in lots of efficiency. One thing which we have always realized is that by having really good boilerplate content, we're able to improve the productivity in a proposal cycle anywhere from 20 to 40%. I mean, that's a kind of improvement that we can really deliver. What does that mean? It means that you have a better ability to now focus more on the unique content, because it's the unique content which is going to get you the wins. Okay, very important. I mean, there's also, to draw a similar analogy, for example, let's take the example of a restaurant. You walk into a restaurant and order a bowl of dal, for example, and usually they take what, 5 minutes, 10 minutes to produce that bowl of dal, nothing longer than that, right? Why is it possible for them to do that versus you and I, if we were to try and cook that dal, it will easily take us 30 to 45 minutes to do that. That's because we start everything from scratch, but a restaurant doesn't do that. The dal is pre-cooked, the onions are cut, the chilies are cut, the oil is ready. So whenever our order is placed, all that they do is more or less do an assembly of these ingredients and produce a dal in front of you. And even with a little bit of customization, let's say, for example, you say, I want less salt, less oil, they're still able to do that, because those are pieces which are only going in as part of the dal assembly process, right? But if you're suddenly going to ask them saying, I will only eat a bowl of dal provided the dal is organic. In this case, a restaurant may not be able to service you because they might not have bought organic dal, for example. I'm just giving you slightly exaggerated examples of what I'm talking about here. So the more and better organized you are in terms of your boilerplate content, which in the restaurant example equals to cooked dal, onions cut, etc., etc., the better the efficiency, and therefore the better the effectiveness. Very important to remember. Okay. Also remember one thing, that the way we look at opportunities and the way clients look at opportunities are not the same. Okay, what might be what I call as a operational opportunity for you, which is part of your sweet spot. It's a medium customized response, medium opportunity qualification, might actually be very strategic for the client. Okay, what that means is he's buying this service or solution once in a very long time, maybe 5 years, or once every 10 years, or something like that. For example, a client buying a solution for boiler to produce steam, for example, they are looking at a solution which is going to be running for 10, 15, 20 years. I don't know how long boilers last, but I would imagine that it will last at least for those many years, right? Or a client buying a complex IT solution, implementing an SAP kind of solution, right? Probably going to use SAP for the next 10, 20, 30 years, or maybe even more, and across the globe, for example. Very infrequent, organization-wide impact, and high risk. So the way the client looks at their buy versus the way you look at that particular opportunity can be very, very different. And this can also lead to a lot of if I may say, difficulty in the conversations. Let me give you an analogy, for example, to illustrate this point. Many of us here would have probably bought their flat, and for many of us, typically in the middle class, we might buy one flat in our lifetime, or maybe two, or somebody who's really rich might buy 3, 4, 5. I mean, let's leave those kind of people out for a moment. But people like us who are buying a home is going to buy maybe 1 or 2 at best, and the whole lot of investment that's going to go in, significant savings going to go into that, a big liability that you're going to carry because you're going to pay through EMI and all of those. So it's a very strategic buy for us. But when you go into the builder's office and you're talking to them about about purchasing a flat, many a time they treat you, very haphazardly. They don't give you the respect, or they don't spend the time, or they don't take the trouble to go out of the way to understand your situation and offer you something. And you feel very let down stepping out, saying, I didn't get all the right answers. I think they were trying to pull a sham job, etc., etc. Why is that upsetting to you? Because for you, it's a strategic buy, whereas for the builder, it's an operational sell. And remember, when you walked out feeling that way, the same possibility can also occur with your client, and you need to respect that probably it's a strategic buy, in which case you need to respect that aspect, that he's concerned more about risk. How do you help him manage that risk? How do you put together a solution which addresses his core issues as far as that purchase is concerned, and you want to make sure that you're addressing those. Something to really keep in mind. I mean, am I understanding the client well enough in terms of what is mindset? Yes. Okay. Quickly, 4 things which really go into putting together winning proposals, from an organization standpoint. If you're a bigger organization, you want to make sure that you have the right people who can participate in the proposal, right from bid and proposal specialists to solutioning specialists and all of those. You're following the right process, right from qualifying the opportunity to the process that we talked about, analyzing the RFP, identifying the issues, mapping it to capabilities, and coming up with your differentiators. That's a process that we talked about. Okay. Content, we talked about boilerplate content, how that makes a big difference to the quality of your proposals. And you want to make sure that there is someone tasked with that responsibility of keeping that content up to date and all of those. And we also talked about graphics and visual design, how bringing that together into the proposal makes your proposal stand out as compared to your competition, and visually pleasing as well. Okay. That's it. I come to the end of my presentation, and hopefully it was useful. I'm now going to kind of go back to the chat box and bring up the questions. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, I think I need to stop sharing screen. By the way, this is the contact that you have on my screen. If you want, make a note of it, because looks like I have to stop sharing to go to the questions. Please make a note of it in case you want to reach out to me. I'm happy to have further conversation with you guys, but I'll just stop sharing. And yes, okay, now I've got all the questions. Yes, the weather is pleasant. Okay, I'm just okay. Sample RFP received. Okay, I'm just going to go through the questions that are coming up. Okay, what is the basis of weightage? I think I've addressed that question. Raw score and weighted score, I've talked about it. Hopefully that's clarified. Okay, Sitaram Rajamani's question is, can commercial points like warranty, payment terms be put forth as a stronger value?
Would you like to have?
All right, I'll continue. Can commercial points like warranty, payment terms be put forth as a stronger value proposition to client in the proposal? Not warranty and payment terms. In my opinion, I would say no, simply because usually they are not very unique. Unless you have something very unique as far as warranty is concerned, very unique as far as payment terms are concerned, and it's going to be a standout, then potentially yes. But at least based on my experience and the way I can imagine, my answer is probably not. Okay. Apart from these two, what could be some other tangible and non-tangible benefits we can highlight in proposals? Look, benefits are always owned by the client. You never own benefits. You can only talk about your capabilities and your features, right? Going back to the shirt example, what was the benefit that you were looking for when you were paying 1,000 rupees for the shirt? You wanted a shirt which will make you look good, gives you a stiff collar so that you can maybe wear a nice tie or something like that, and goes very well with your dark blue navy pants, for example. I'm just using a man's example. You can equally apply it to a woman's example. So feel free to use your imagination there. So using this example, the benefit that you were looking for is that you want a standout shirt which will help you look good in front of the client. Okay. Now, as far as the shirt vendor is concerned, he's only offering you the features. Of course, if he understands this context better, then he can always talk about saying, hey, you know, since you're going for an interview, why don't you go to the trial room, wear this shirt, I'll pull out a nice little tie and I'll show it to you. And you can see how exactly you're going to look. And you're going to wear with a navy blue pant. You know what? I have navy blue pants as well. You can wear that as well. And now you get the complete picture. Mind you, you're only buying the shirt. The reason why he's able to offer you this kind of a solution is because he understands the benefit that you are working towards. And now he's articulating, saying, now, sir, you're looking perfect for an interview. He's basically articulating a benefit to you. So the benefit is always owned by you. And therefore, when we talk about benefits to the client, we always are helping him visualize his world and how he's going to draw that benefit and get value from it. Okay. Yeah, so apart from these, what could be some other tangible and non-tangible benefits we can highlight in proposals? I think we talked about. So your benefits, as far as possible, you want to make it tangible. You know, one question that you can always apply to the question about benefits is when somebody talks about benefit within your organization, when you're discussing as part of your proposal process, one test you can apply is, so what? So what? When you keep going through that so what set of questions, you will find that it finally leads to a benefit, right? So if the shirt vendor says, sir, stiff collar, you know, very good. And you can say, so what? Well, with a stiff collar, you can, you know, your tie will look very good. So what? When your tie looks very good, it enhances the shirt, it enhances the quality of the tie. It will make you very, very presentable. So what? Well, if you're going for an interview, presentation is very important. So now we are going to a benefit. So hopefully that example gives you what I'm talking about. Raw and weighted score, we talked about. Yep, we talked about that. Okay, a lot of questions on raw and weighted score. Hopefully I've addressed that. Can you share your presentation? Okay, brief about graphic. Will you also share? Yep, okay. Sir, talk a little bit about follow-up also, how to follow up with a client. First thing I can say is that if you have a compelling proposal, then you don't have to follow up with the client. Most likely they themselves will follow up with you, invite you for discussions and meetings and all of those. I think more than me, probably your salespeople would be in a better position to talk about follow-ups and all of those. Usually I find that whenever I have not understood the client well, and trust me, I do make those mistakes quite often as well. Whenever I have not understood the client's issues very well and I submit a proposal and I don't hear about it, I know for sure that somewhere something is not understood very well by me. And therefore, my follow-up meetings or questions usually with the client are specific in terms of, hey, is there something that we have missed out? Is there something that you have not understood very well? And every time you're able to demonstrate that empathy, you will find that clients also respond to your follow-up calls and queries. So other than that, I can't say there is a real formula as far as follow-ups is concerned, but hopefully submit a proposal which is compelling. Okay. Please share my number. It was there on the last slide. M. Krishnakumar, my namesake. Hopefully you got it. Please share opinion about presenting the important things like scope, deliverable, pricing. And absolutely, yes. So, Abba Sahib Kale, this is very important. You must mention them as sections within the proposal. And the more detailed you are, the better it is, simply because remember one thing, proposals are actually a promise that you're making to the client. And you want to be as honest and straightforward as you can be in making these promises, number one. Number two, these are the sections which always draws attention of the junior stakeholders from the client organization, whether it is an equivalent service engineer or a project manager from their side or the procurement guy. They always look into these details, and you want to make sure that you provide as much details as possible. What I would say is that these are fairly standard sections of the proposal, and you must have them and you must address them as part of your proposal process without any doubt. Okay. Okay. Okay, sir, can you please difference between quotations and proposals? I think I addressed this issue, but I'll just quickly walk you through very simply. Proposal has always got a unique solution. What is unique? That for every proposal you're crafting it uniquely, and therefore it's a unique solution. Whereas quotations are not. Quotations are more like purchasing commodities by and large, right? It can be a fairly large commodity like buying a crane, for example, but it is still, the pricing is approached like that of a commodity. So you'll have a price and a quantity usually, and of course other terms and conditions, you know, maybe if you buy more quantity, etc., etc. But that's how quotation is distinguished between proposal. Okay. Hope to make a proposal attractive. It is something like a capital goods, like a machine, and few more competitors are going to make similar proposal for the requirement. Yes and no. So far as it is a proposal, I would say you must make your proposal stand out, independent of how much competition you have. I think that's your responsibility, because you want to demonstrate without any doubt to the client what value you're providing. If you're not doing that, then you're not putting your best foot forward towards winning that deal. You are merely submitting a response and not putting together a proposal. I think that's a difference, Anish Desai, if I can give a response to the question that you have raised here. Okay. 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 Krishnakumar said confusing, but it became clear later. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Any additional points to stress while dealing with a product company? Example, auto manufacturer to whom we are proposing our products in their product, or aid to manufacture their product. Kushal, this is a very good question. Kushal Digay's question is this. I do realize that automotive components work very closely with the main manufacturing company, whether it is Tata Motors or Volkswagen or Bajaj Auto and all of those. I would imagine, at least to the extent that I have understood the automotive sector, I would imagine that, if you're supplying a particular part to the company, let's say windshield, for example, not windshield, windshield wiper, for example, okay? Now that's a part system that you are specialized in manufacturing. Usually the main manufacturer and you would be working together to kind of put that all together. I would imagine that in such a case, it is more like a quotation than opposed to a proposal. So I'm not sure how much of a role a proposal really plays in this. Having said that, Kushal, if I've not understood your question very well, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to have a more detailed conversation with you to understand better and suggest something more meaningful to you. Okay. Atharva Dale is asking, do a good, attractive proposal make an important role in this recession market? Answer is absolutely yes, Atharva. I mean, independent of recession or a boom market, your responsibility is making sure that your proposal reflects very well how you have understood the client and how you're putting together the entire proposal, therefore in line with that. If you're able to do that, recession market or a boom market, it doesn't matter. Anyway, you have no control whether it's a recession market or a boom market. The only thing that you have under your control is the proposal making and how well you understand the client. If you've got an opportunity to respond to a RFP during a recession market, guess what? That means your client is buying. That's actually a fantastic opportunity. Grab it with both your hands. Put an even better proposal than what you would normally do, is what I would suggest. Okay. In this situation, everyone focus on pricing more. Yes, Atharva, I do understand that people have this very, I would say, lazy excuse saying we lost because of pricing. I can tell you that much, that all the areas that we lost out on, in my experience, we lost out not because of pricing, because of something else. The challenge is we are too lazy to find out what those issues are. And on the other hand, we also won deals where we were 2 times, 3 times than the nearest competitor, and yet we won the deal. And I know for sure the amount of effort and drive with which we went through with the client to understand all their issues and put together a compelling proposal. Okay, and the competition was very, very significant. We were playing with global players. So please, if there is one takeaway from this session, I want you to go back with is, please eliminate this lazy excuse saying, "Oh, we lost because of pricing." Okay, think much harder than that.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. You could take another 1 question, and we can end up the session, please.
That's what I will do. I'm just good. How startup proposal should be? What should be the do's and don'ts? No difference, Mr. ND Gaikwad. I would say that's what I would say. So Rohan Padman, yeah, the automotive one I would certainly want to understand a little better. So please do get in touch with me, and I'm happy to. Ashutosh Unavane, unlike foreign clients, is it a good policy not to negotiate? Well, I know what you're talking about. Maybe we can have a separate conversation of that. Okay. Yeah, I'll take one last question of Prasad Kamte. He said, many times it happens that I lost few projects due to unethical practice or wasted interest of decision makers. Sorry, I don't entertain these practices. That is my major concern about survival of organization. Prasad, unethical practices are prevalent all over. Okay, not only in India, abroad too, unethical practices are there. Okay. To whether equally follow an unethical practice or not, I'm not the right guy to advise. That's a call you as an organization have to take. Having said that, one thing I can talk about is what many consider as unethical practices. They influence clients even before the RFP is issued. And people consider this unethical. I don't think this is unethical at all. It's just that the provider organization has invested in more relationship building and understanding of the client issues even before the RFP is issued. I think this is a perfectly ethical exercise. I find that every time you're able to do that, you're able to influence a client towards you, or equally good is the fact that you realize that you don't have an opportunity, in which case you might want to walk out of that deal. Both are equally useful information for you. So I would say invest more in building that client relationship, because then you have better intelligence as far as the client is concerned. Okay. What I would suggest is, drop me an email. Roshni, I'll just share my screen once again, if you don't mind, with my contact details.
Yes, please.
So that people can also get in touch with me in case they wish to do that.
Sure.
Share screen and my PPT. Okay, all right. Okay, so hopefully you are able to see my screen. That's my contact details available on the screen. Drop me an email, give me a call. Most happy to talk to you and find out what your issues are, and happy to work with you and take this forward. Thank you very much. Really appreciate. Sorry I couldn't go through all the questions, but hopefully, I've addressed most of them. Thank you very much. Back to you, Roshni.
Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentations on proposal. And I believe that there are lots of positive notes on the chat where people have gotten insights about your sessions today. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. We will be closing the session now. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.